Now there are many parts to setting up the scheduler that we need prior to actually scheduling appointments. And we also need at least one patient entered correctly into the patient demographic so we can actually schedule somebody on the scheduler. So the first thing we want to do is set up the appointment scheduler. Like I said, there's many parts, so let's get started. Go up under the Master Files menu, down to Appointments, and over and down to Instructions Setup. Here's a list of instructions. You probably won't have any in your new office key, and you can link these instructions to an appointment type to remind the patient of anything special that needs to be done for the appointment. For example, you can see down here I've got fast for 24 hours, bring your glasses with you, and all you have to do is come up here, type in a code, it doesn't matter whatever code you want it to be, and the instruction. And all this is going to do when you schedule the appointment, you can hover over the appointment with your mouse, and it will give the front office person a pop-up saying, "Oh, Mr. Jones, before you take off, you need to fast for 24 hours when you come to your next appointment." And of course, if you need to make any changes, just highlight it, and then up at the top, delete or add text, and be sure to save your work when you're done. Next, we want to set up the type of appointments that we'll be scheduling for patients that's proprietary to your office. So we'll close out of here, go back up under Master Files, down to Appointments, and over to Appointment Types. And of course, in my office key, you'll see that I've already got several of them created. Yours is going to be blank. And it includes the type of appointments that the doctor's going to see, including new patients, glass fittings, eye surgery. You can see my doctor does a lot here. So to get started, I'm going to click on the clear button so I can empty it down below. And I'm going to type in my appointment type. Let's say it's going to be another follow-up. We'll say follow-up 2. You can add spaces with yours, but I'm not. I'm going to keep mine just like that. Hit the tab key. How many minutes does the doctor spend on this type of appointment? I would say 45. And then what type of color, when you're scheduling this type of appointment in the appointment scheduler, do you want it to show? Let's do brown. Now the charge slip option here, the super bill, just means that you can left click on the appointment that you schedule the patient for and print off a super bill by setting up the default here. So if I click on the ellipsis button, you'll see you've got the Advanced MD Default Standard super bill, and if you put all your charges and diagnosis codes into that standard, go ahead and select it. Of course, if this was at the hospital, I could select that as well. That's a different super bill that I set up. So I'll double click on Standard. Next, I can choose my Waitlist Priority. In the appointment scheduler, and we'll go over this when you're actually scheduling appointments, you have a wait list. So if a patient wants to be seen earlier than normal, you'll still schedule the patient's appointment, say about 2 weeks from now, but they want to be seen tomorrow. You'll schedule them out 2 weeks from now because you have to schedule them on the appointment scheduler in order to put them in the wait list. And then when the wait list becomes available, you can set your priority here for this appointment type. You can make it high, medium, or low. And in the appointment scheduler, the high priority will appear at the top of the waiting list, followed by the lower ones. So maybe for follow-ups, it's not a big deal. I could probably even set that to low. But if it was a new patient, maybe I would set that up to high. So if I had 20 people waiting in my wait list, and the new appointments were high, they'd appear up at the top. So if any time slot opens up, I want to choose from the high priorities and schedule them first in those open time slots. Now also when I schedule an appointment, I can add an instruction to the appointment, like let's say anytime I do a follow-up 2, or if it's a new patient, I want them to fast. So I can double click on the fast or highlight it and click on the arrow to bring it over. And it's the same thing, you double click over here to remove it. I like double clicking, so we'll move it over here. And then this is optional. Appointment type is not billable. Again, when you hover over some of these boxes, it'll give you a pop-up there, but it's just saying that when you schedule this appointment, you don't want it to appear in your list of charges that you need to post for that patient that day. All it does is it puts them on the scheduler, doesn't generate a visit number, so you can post charges to this appointment type. Then down below you've got 3 ellipsis buttons here of documents that you want to print with your charge slip. And remember, we said that when we left click on the patient's appointment that we scheduled, and let's say we scheduled the follow-up 2, when you left click, it's going to give the option to print your standard charge slip. When you print your standard charge slip, anything you put down here in these 3 boxes will automatically print with it. Here's a little secret. If you don't want to print your charge slip but you generate it and you click cancel, anything you have down in here will automatically print. So there's another way of getting around this if you're not printing charge slips but you would like to print other documents with this appointment type. So you want to watch a training video on setting up your patient document templates. When you have them set up, you can come back in here, of course, and make changes. Click on the ellipsis button. And you'll see you've got quite a few document templates here. Double click on one, and this one's going to print off with the standard charge slip. Or again, the little secret is that you can cancel printing your charge slip, but then when you cancel, it'll still automatically print off anything else you have in these 3 boxes here for document templates. So maybe I have a patient form that I automatically want to print off for any patients that have a second follow-up that I'll need more information on, perhaps a specific type of form. So when I'm finished, I'll be sure to save my work, and when I save it, it'll add it up there as a line item, and you can see it's already selected. Click clear, go ahead and do another one, and repeat my steps. Again, if I need to make any changes, just go ahead and double click on it, come down here, and I can delete it, reset the time, whatever I need to do. And real quick, the P is for priority or waitlist priority, and your NB is also for not billable if you had this box checked. Again, just hover over the boxes. Next is the provider schedule setup. We want to define the provider's working hours and days. So we want to go under the Master Files menu to Appointments and over and down to Provider Schedule Setup. Over to the left-hand side, you'll have a list of all the doctors that you can set up the column settings for, their working hours and days. So to begin with, we'll start with Dr. Smith here. And for the start time for Dr. Smith, what's the earliest time he'll ever schedule an appointment? In other words, if there are days of the week he usually comes in at 8 a.m., but there may be one day a week or sometime in the future he will see a patient at 5 a.m., then we want to set that as the earliest time because we can never go earlier than what the starting time is here. So we'll set that as 5 a.m. and the end time or 6 p.m. Now mine are already set up here, so you'll have to come in here and type 6 and also set it to a.m. or p.m. And then the time interval, what's the time? Is it in increments of 15 minutes, so 15, 30, 45 minutes? We'll say it's 15 minutes. And then what's the days of the week that he works? Is it Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and not Saturdays? Go ahead and check or uncheck accordingly, and then when you're finished, be sure to save your settings. And then move on to the next doctor. Basically that would be it, except there's one additional feature down below is the appointment types. Now by default all of the doctors here will have all the appointment types available to them. But let's say for Dr. James here, he doesn't do dilations exams, so we don't want the front office when they're scheduling appointments, we don't want it to appear at all. So what we can do is select this for Dr. James here, who's already selected, and say we want to hide it from him. So the front office, when they schedule, they won't see that. They'll just see all the other available appointment types. Now this little red X here under the DEF is for default appointment type. That means that the appointment type here, when I select it, down below does not match the default appointment type under the Master Files menu, the training video that we just went over setting up the default appointment types, which is again Master Files to Appointments and over to Appointment Types. But I'll go back here and you can see the charge slip in our default appointment types. Usually every single one of them had a charge slip. Well, if it doesn't match, then you can change this and set it up so it matches the default. Otherwise, if you're okay with this, since we're hiding it from them anyways, we'll leave that alone. And if I need to, I can obviously add additional appointment types down here and make any changes that I need to.